TW, self-harm, bullying and emotional abuse. I shamed my sister and got her sent to prison. For some background, my dad is not my biological father. I am the result of my mom being drunk at a party while my sister Jess was a baby. Don't worry, my mom is okay. She was always open about it. She remembers talking to her friends and then, out of nowhere, being in her car with her clothes disheveled and feeling sore. Mom states she never suffered that much trauma because she was blackout drunk and doesn't remember a bit of it. The fact that happened just messes with her a little bit. But she's fine. I promise. Initially, my dad wanted her to get an abortion, but she didn't believe in that. My mom is pro-choice, but abortion just wasn't for her. They settled on adoption. But then when my mom saw me after giving birth, she just knew she loved me because there was no trauma attached to me. And even though my dad was hurt by the fact that I didn't look like him, he fell in love with me too when he held me and accepted me. After a DNA test, they tracked down my sperm donor, and to the shock of both of my parents, he confessed and got convicted. I had a good childhood, but it was never close to my sister. We argued a lot, like siblings do, but the nail in the coffin for our relationship came when she was 11. My sperm donor was released from prison. He obviously was not to ever come near my family, and he had no desire to see me anyway. My parents were talking about them, and my sister eavesdropped and heard how I was conceived. After that, it was all over. Jess hated me, said that I wasn't her brother, and proceeded to bully me verbally and physically for the next 5 years. It all hurt so much to have my sister turn on me for something that was out of my control. She told our entire family the truth. For years, they all suspected that I was not my father's kid, but now that they know the truth, they all judge my mom for not terminating me. And I became a black sheep. My cousin Jill joined in on my harassment with Jess. They took my money. They hit me when my parents weren't looking. They destroyed my homework. They told me I should end myself. They tore me down so much I could never speak up to my parents. The torment didn't stop, but it slowed down a bit when they both got boyfriends. One night when I was 12, Jess was 14, and Jill was 15, we had a sleepover at my aunt and uncle's house. The girls were visibly pissed, so I was forced to go with them there. I don't remember why, but my aunt and uncle had to go out overnight, so the girls invited their BFs. I'm just going to say this, ever since I was like 8, I thought the AOC should be 18. Everywhere, seriously, can't anyone wait? Teens who get pregnant are stupid as F. Use protection, or better yet, keep it in your pants until adulthood. Don't be in muck when you drop out of high school to raise your child, get an abortion and are sad after it, or have to let your kid go for adoption. This is why I think the AOC should be 18 everywhere. All teenagers who have sex are losers. I said this when the guys came over and I saw them at second base. They responded by locking me in my room and proceeding with their very loud sex. It was horrifying to me to hear the moans and grunts. The girls intimidated me into not saying anything. A year later, I was at a point where Jill had a falling out with her boyfriend and she broke up with him. Then he said, "Let's FVCK one more time." Jill said no, then he roped her in, and she got pregnant. They went to trial, but there was no proof of rope because they were already having consensual sex before that. Later, I commended him for giving Jill what she deserved before I kicked him in the nuts for fun rather than running. Jill had to keep the baby because she didn't realize she was pregnant until it was too late for an abortion. My uncle wouldn't have let her get one anyway, as they were pro-life. My aunt and uncle were the only ones to not shame my mom for keeping me, and they told Jill that they would kick her out if she put the baby up for adoption because they wanted to raise the baby. One day, me and Jess were sent to take care of Jill for a weekend, so I took the opportunity to tell Jill how I felt about her. I said, "Well, it looks like if you had kept your legs closed in the first place, you wouldn't be in this situation. You deserve to get roped in." She became hysterical while I laughed. Then Jess slapped me. Having enough, I clocked her in the jaw and told Jess that I hoped she would get roped too. Jess then called her boyfriend to beat me up. The blows were painful, but the look on the girls' faces was worth it. A week later, while Jill was sleeping, I got my dad's tattoo kit and tattooed a CVNT on her head, and it was permanent. She never woke up because I spiked her drink earlier in the day. Jill was already getting bullied for being pregnant, but the tattoo just made everything worse, and I loved it. After that, I overheard Jill talking on the phone with her friend. She said that she wanted to go unalive, and I said, "Do it then, B." But of course she didn't do it. A year later, when I came home from work early, I saw Jess with her boyfriend. They didn't know I was there. He tried to initiate sex, but she said no. I watched and did nothing. I tried to rope her. Right before he forced himself on her, my dad stopped him and kicked his arse. My dad didn't notice that I intentionally did nothing and assumed I was frozen in fear because of my parents' ignorance of me and my sister's hatred of one another. My dad let me get a few hits in on him. Unbeknownst to my dad, I was beating him up because he didn't finish his job. That same night, for fun, I drugged Jessica, drank, tattooed the C word on Jessica's head, and convinced my parents that he probably broke during the night. The next day at school, when no one was around, I spray painted the crayon on her locker. She cried like a baby while everyone laughed at her. I had to complete my revenge. A few months earlier, I overheard a conversation between Jessica and her boyfriend about how both of the couples made sex tapes. I then went to both of the guys and convinced them to send them out to the whole school, which they did. The girls were laughing, and I was on cloud 9. We later found out that Jessica was pregnant, and she actually wanted to keep her baby. It was the one thing that made her happy during this time. What she didn't know was that I already had the ending of my revenge planned. I contacted the police and told them about how the SX tapes were sent around the school. All 4 of them were arrested for making a cheese pizza. It was beautiful to watch Jessica cry as she was taken away from her baby. It's amazing to know that even when she gets out of prison, she'll still be a S offender and won't be allowed around her own kid. And I'll make sure to raise my nephew and let her know that he loves his uncle more than his own mom. My parents still don't know it was me who called the cops, and I don't plan on telling them. I visited my sister with my nephew, where I would let her know that he'd love me and not her and that she couldn't be near him. She cried. That's when I let her know that I was the one who spray painted her locker and tattooed her head. She became angry. Then I told her that I convinced the guys to release the videos and that I informed the police about the tapes. I told her to make sure she dropped the soap. That was the last time I saw my sister, and after everything, I regret not having peace.